As of the time of this recording, petrol prices here in Singapore are at an all-time high. 95 grade petrol is at $3.38 per litre and 98 grade petrol is at $3.87 per litre, which means for a larger car, a full tank can cost you more than $250. And we have seen so many discussions that fuel prices here are always quick to rise. But when crude oil prices are down, the downward adjustment takes a very long time. Why is this happening? One more thing, across the causeway, petrol is just at 4.72 ringgit per litre for RON 97 fuel. That's roughly $1.50, and I haven't even gone to compare RON 95 fuel in Malaysia, which costs just 2.05 ringgit per litre. What is causing this significant difference? Why is petrol so expensive in Singapore? So to find out how come there's such a big difference in the price of our petrol here versus that over the causeway, we need to understand what goes into the price of our petrol that is causing the price to be so high. There are actually four main components that goes into determining the prices: cost of crude oil, taxes, overheads, and advertising and promotions. So let's talk about the cost of crude oil. Now, it is widely believed that our petrol price has a high dependency on the price of crude oil. It does somewhat, as our petrol has to initially come from crude oil after refinement. But prices may not track directly to crude oil benchmarks. That's because most of our petrol retailers here base their decisions on the price of wholesale petrol bought from the refineries instead. And wholesale petrol is priced using this thing called the Mint of Platts Singapore, or MOPS. Platts is an independently owned energy and petrochemicals information provider. They assess and predict crude oil prices some 15 to 30 days ahead. So that explains why fuel price adjusts downwards a lot slower than what crude oil price fall. But what about when petrol companies here adjust their price upwards quickly? Well, that's probably due to the other three components. While we will never know the percentage that crude oil prices represent in our local retail petrol prices, this second component is very transparent, and that's the tax and duties. Currently, all RON 95 and below petrol attracts a tax of 66 cents per litre, and RON 98 and above fuel are taxed at 79 cents per litre. This tax already forms some 20% of the prices. And don't forget about the 7% GST too. Next comes the third component, which are the overheads. This actually forms quite a big chunk of the petrol price too, because this includes costs arising from land, utility, staff salaries, transport, and perhaps a dozen other factors. And if we want to go into more detail, we can even factor in distribution costs. Normally, this shouldn't play too big a deal. But due to the pandemic over the past 2 years, there is a shrinking number of fuel truck drivers worldwide, which increases distribution costs rather significantly. Lastly, the fourth factor is from advertising and promotions, or A&P. Don't discount this, pun intended, because marketing, promotions, and discount will all cost money for the petrol companies. Do you think that the hefty 20% of credit card discounts that you enjoy from certain credit cards are already factored into this price? Well, the reality is the petrol companies are running a business too, so it's no wonder that A&P are all factored into the price of the petrol you are buying. So now you should have a better understanding of what goes into the price of petrol here. But it doesn't still explain why petrol is so cheap in Malaysia, particularly for RON 95 and below fuel. Well, that's because regular grade petrol there are subsidized by their government. As an estimate, for the current price of 95 grade petrol at 2.05 ringgit, the Malaysian government is subsidizing an estimate of 1.65 ringgit. Therefore, if not for that subsidy, RON 95 would cost 3.70 ringgit per litre, which is still nearly 3 times cheaper compared to ours. So if we add our government petrol tax to this price, the difference is reduced to around $1.50 per litre. which seems more reasonable given our super high land cost, staff wages, electricity charges, and just about everything else. So I hope you'll learn something new in this video. If so, do give us a like and subscribe to our channel so that you will get the other videos in this series when they are out. Don't forget to ring that notification bell too. In the next two videos, I'm going to share with you 10 petrol saving tips, and subsequently, I will help you to compare petrol, diesel and hybrid cars so that you will see which one is most worth it